fine! You're going to jail!
The humid summer air hung heavy, a tangible blanket that clung to everything it touched. Sweat beaded on my forehead as I surveyed my creation, the emerald expanse of my front lawn radiating a vibrant hue under the afternoon sun. After months of planning, saving, and backbreaking labor, it was finally complete. The meticulously laid sod, sourced from a local farm renowned for its quality blend of Kentucky bluegrass and fescue, was lush and springy underfoot. The newly installed underground sprinkler system hissed softly as it distributed life-giving water, ensuring a consistent, healthy sheen. The mulch, dark and rich, perfectly framed the freshly trimmed hedges, their geometric precision a testament to my dedication.
Oh.
This wasn't just a lawn, it was a statement. A statement of pride, of ownership, of belonging. It was a visual representation of the American dream, achieved through hard work and unwavering determination. For years, I had envisioned this. I'd sketched designs on napkins, pored over gardening magazines, and spent countless hours researching the best techniques for creating a thriving, sustainable landscape. Living in this predominantly white, cookie-cutter suburban neighborhood, I knew my presence already drew attention. Being a black man in a space not traditionally considered mine brought its own set of unspoken challenges. But I refused to be intimidated. I refused to shrink myself or my aspirations to fit someone else's narrow definition of normalcy. I wanted to create a space that reflected my own values, beauty, order, and a commitment to nurturing growth. The house itself had been a fixer-upper, the previous owners having allowed it to fall into disrepair. The lawn was a patchy wasteland of weeds and bare earth, a constant source of irritation every time I pulled into the driveway. It was a symbol of neglect, a visual representation of the apathy that seemed to pervade certain corners of the community. I saw an opportunity not just to improve my own property, but to inspire others to take pride in their surroundings. I envisioned a block transformed, houses radiating with care and attention, a community united by a shared commitment to beauty and well-being. This lawn was the first step, the catalyst for a larger transformation. I invested every spare moment, every ounce of energy into bringing my vision to life. I consulted with local horticulturalists, learned about soil composition, and experimented with different fertilizers to find the perfect balance. It was a labor of love, a testament to my belief in the power of perseverance. The result was more than just a beautiful lawn. It was a symbol of my commitment to this community, my willingness to invest in its future. It was a testament to the fact that I belonged here, just as much as anyone else. As I stood admiring my handiwork, a sense of profound satisfaction washed over me. I had created something beautiful, something meaningful, something that would hopefully inspire others to do the same. Little did I know, my emerald dream was about to be shattered by a wave of suburban schemes, fueled by prejudice and petty jealousy. The serenity shattered like glass with the staccato. Clip-clop of dog nails on the pavement, Karen, the name itself, conjured up a specific archetype, the entitled suburbanite, weaponizing privilege with a saccharine smile and a thinly veiled sense of superiority. She lived across the street, in a house identical to mine, yet worlds apart in terms of curb appeal. Her lawn was a faded, lackluster green, dotted with dandelions and patches of brown. Her hedges were overgrown and unruly, their shapes resembling less sculpted topiaries and more abstract expressions of neglect. In the 2 years I'd lived in this house, she had never once acknowledged my existence. Never a wave, a nod, a simple hello. It was as if I were invisible, a ghost haunting the edges of her meticulously curated suburban fantasy. The small, yappy chihuahua she clutched on a rhinestone-studded leash seemed to mirror her own tightly wound energy. It strained forward, barking. Incessantly, its tiny teeth bared in what I could only assume was a display of misplaced aggression. Karen marched across the street with the deliberate purpose of someone about to deliver a carefully rehearsed monologue. Her lips were pursed, a tight, disapproving line that suggested she had been stewing over this for quite some time. Need to tone it down, she declared, her voice sharp and accusatory, cutting through the quiet afternoon like a rusty saw. My initial reaction was confusion. Tone what down? My music, a driving. My choice of barbecue for the upcoming neighborhood. Cookout? Excuse me? I replied, genuinely bewildered. Her face contorted into a mask of barely suppressed indignation. Your grass. It's too green. It's not natural. I don't know what chemicals you're using, but it's disturbing the neighborhood aesthetic. I blinked, trying to process the sheer absurdity of her complaint. Too green, disturbing the aesthetic? Was this some bizarre performance art piece I wasn't in on? I wanted to laugh, but the look in her eyes, a mixture of envy and thinly veiled hostility, told me she was dead serious. This wasn't about aesthetics. It was about control. It was about maintaining the status quo, preserving the illusion of uniformity that she so desperately clung to. It was about my success being a direct affront to her own perceived shortcomings. I water it, and I take care of it. You could do the same if you wanted, I said, trying to keep my tone neutral to avoid escalating the situation. I wanted to reason with her, to explain the hours of hard work and dedication that had gone into creating this lawn. But her eyes narrowed, and I knew that logic was futile. She wasn't interested in understanding. She was interested in asserting her dominance, reminding me that I was an outsider, a disruptor of her carefully constructed world. Her eyes narrowed, transforming her seemingly benign features into something colder, harder. It was as if a mask had slipped, revealing the ugliness that festered beneath the surface. This isn't about me, she spat, her voice laced with venom. This is about you, trying to make a statement. I tilted my head, genuinely perplexed. A statement? The statement could a healthy lawn possibly make, other than the fact that I was a responsible homeowner who took pride in my property? The absurdity of the situation was almost comical, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that something far more sinister was at play. She leaned in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, as if she were sharing some dark secret. We all know why you're doing this, she hissed. At you people move in and try to show off like you're better than us. The words hung in the air, heavy with implication, the underlying racism finally exposed. You people. The phrase dripped with condescension, a blatant attempt to other me. To categorize me as something separate, something less than, was a clear indication that her objection to my lawn had nothing to do with aesthetics and everything to do with my race. She saw my success as a threat, my meticulously maintained lawn as a symbol of my transgression against the unspoken rules of this community. I stepped back, stunned by the blatant prejudice. I'd encountered racism before, of course, but there was something particularly jarring about experiencing it so openly, so casually. In my own front yard, it was a stark reminder that even in the most seemingly progressive spaces, prejudice could lurk beneath the surface, waiting for an opportunity to reveal itself. The fresh sod, the new mulch, the trimmed hedges, all of it suddenly felt tainted, defiled by her hateful words. It was no longer just a lawn. It was a battleground, a symbol of resistance against the suffocating grip of prejudice. Karen, clearly emboldened by her own bigotry, reached for her phone. With a smug look on her face. Fine, she said, her voice dripping with false bravado. If you won't listen, maybe my husband can explain it better. The implication was clear. She was about to weaponize her privilege to call upon the authority of her husband to silence me, to punish me for daring to defy her expectations. In that moment, I understood the full extent of her malice. This wasn't just about a lawn. It was about power, about control, about maintaining the racial hierarchy that she so desperately clung to. It was about silencing my voice, erasing my presence, and reaffirming her own sense of superiority. As she dialed, I braced myself for the inevitable storm. I knew that this wasn't just going to be a simple disagreement. It was going to be fight. A fight for my right to exist, to thrive, to create a space that reflected my own values, regardless of the color of my skin. 10 minutes felt like an eternity. The buzzing of the insects seemed amplified, the gentle breeze, now a mocking gust. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the backdrop of suburban silence. Then, the unmistakable sound. of a police siren sliced through the air, growing louder with each passing second. A patrol car, gleaming white and ominous, pulled up to the curb, its presence casting a long shadow across my perfectly manicured lawn. A wave of nausea washed over me as I watched Karen's husband, Officer Brady, climb out of the vehicle. His uniform was crisp and imposing, his sunglasses reflecting the late afternoon sun like mirrored shields. He exuded an air of smug confidence, a sense of entitlement that only added to my growing unease. He sauntered over, his eyes scanning my property, with a dismissive glance before landing on me. A smirk played on his lips as he addressed me, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Got a call about suspicious lawn activity?" He chuckled, clearly amused by his own joke. Those were his actual words. Suspicious lawn activity. The sheer absurdity of it all threatened to overwhelm me, but I forced myself to remain calm. To maintain my composure in the face of this blatant abuse of power, I explained the situation calmly, laying out the facts as clearly and concisely as possible. The yard was mine, I stated. Everything was paid for legally. There were no complaints from the city or the homeowners association. I even had receipts. For the landscaping, which I offered to produce, he listened, or at least pretended to listen, his gaze shifting intermittently between Karen, who stood beside him with a triumphant glint in her eyes, and me. I could see the unspoken communication passing between them, the shared understanding of their roles in this charade. He was the enforcer, the protector of their privileged existence, and she was the instigator, the orchestrator of this petty act of intimidation. As I spoke, I couldn't shake the feeling that my words were falling on deaf ears. He'd already made up his mind. He wasn't interested in the truth. He was interested in upholding the status quo and reinforcing the power. Dynamics that favored him and his wife. A seed of doubt began to sprout within me. Would anyone believe me? Would anyone see through their carefully constructed facade? Was I truly alone in this fight? The weight of uncertainty pressed down on me, threatening to crush my spirit. I had invested so much in this community, in this house, in this lawn. Now, it felt like it was all about to be taken away, not by force, but by the insidious power of prejudice and abuse of authority, just as despair threatened to engulf me. The screech of tires heralded an unexpected intervention. Another cruiser, sleek and understated, pulled up behind Officer Brady's vehicle. Relief washed over me as Lieutenant Samuels emerged. He was a towering figure, his presence radiating an air of quiet authority and unwavering integrity. I knew Samuels personally from a city mentorship program, where I volunteered as a counselor for at-risk youth. He had seen me speak at youth summits, advocating for education and community empowerment. He knew my character, my commitment to making a positive impact. He knew that I wasn't the type of person to engage in suspicious lawn activity. He walked slowly, deliberately, his eyes taking in the entire scene, me standing on my perfectly manicured lawn. Officer Brady leaning against his patrol car with a smug expression, and Karen hovering nearby, her face a mask of self-satisfied triumph. He paused, his gaze lingering on each of us, assessing the situation with a keen and discerning eye. Then, without a word, he pulled Officer Brady aside, his voice low and serious. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see the change in Brady's demeanor. His smugness faded, replaced by a flicker of anxiety, a subtle shift in a posture that betrayed his growing unease. Karen, sensing that the tide was turning, began to fidget, her triumphant expression dissolving into a look of nervous apprehension. I later learned that this wasn't the first time Karen and her husband had used his badge to intimidate neighbors, especially black ones. The department had already opened a quiet investigation, prompted by a series of complaints from other residents who had experienced similar harassment. This call, this fake, petty, racist complaint about green grass, was the final piece of the puzzle, the indisputable evidence they needed to take action. It was the culmination of a long pattern of abuse, a blatant disregard for the principles of justice and equality the police force was supposed to uphold. The news spread through the neighborhood with the speed of wildfire, igniting a sense of collective outrage and a renewed commitment to fighting injustice. Neighbors, who had previously remained silent out of fear or apathy, began to speak out, sharing their own stories of harassment and intimidation at the hands of Karen and Officer Brady. The carefully constructed facade of suburban harmony began to crumble, revealing the ugly reality of prejudice and abuse of power that festered beneath the surface. Within 20 agonizing minutes, the situation had completely reversed. Lieutenant Samuels, his face grim, disarmed Officer Brady on the spot. The metallic click of the holster being unsnapped echoed through the stunned silence. He placed Brady's weapon and badge into an evidence bag, the plastic crinkling like a death knell for a career built on injustice. He then informed Brady that he was being placed on administrative leave, pending charges for abuse of power. Air crackled with tension, the scent of summer grass mingling with the acrid tang of impending doom. Karen, her carefully constructed world collapsing around her, erupted in a screeching tirade. "You can't do this. He's a decorated officer," she shrieked, her voice laced with disbelief and desperation. But no one was listening anymore. Her pleas fell on deaf ears. The neighbors had emerged from their houses, drawn by the commotion. Phones were held aloft, recording the unfolding drama, capturing the moment when her perfect suburban fantasy shattered into a million pieces. Even her chihuahua, sensing the shift in energy, seemed to abandon her, lifting its leg and peeing on her. Yoga mat in a final act of canine rebellion, as they led her husband away in handcuffs. A stark symbol of accountability, she rounded on me, her face contorted with rage and misplaced blame. "This is your fault. You and your fake grass," she screamed, her voice cracking with hysteria. I met her gaze unflinching and offered a small, satisfied smile. "It's real," I said calmly, my voice resonating with newfound confidence. "Like your consequences." The weight that had been pressing down on me for so long lifted, placed by a sense of profound relief and unwavering hope. By sundown, for sale sign had sprouted on Karen's lawn, a testament to the power of justice and the resilience of the human spirit. The house remained empty for months, a silent reminder of the ugliness that had once resided there. New neighbors eventually moved in, a young couple eager to embrace the community and contribute to its vibrant tapestry in every blade of my grass. Still green, still thriving, a symbol of defiance in the face of bigotry, a testament to the power of perseverance, and a beacon of hope for a more just and equitable future. Just like me. The experience left scars, no doubt, but it also forged within me an unshakable resolve to continue fighting for what is right, to continue creating spaces of beauty and belonging, and to never allow prejudice to silence my voice or dim my light. My emerald dream, though briefly threatened, had ultimately prevailed, blossoming into a reality far more vibrant and meaningful than I could have ever imagined.